Today we are talking about controversial teacher topics in the news, and I have with me Holden from Classroom Camp. Hello. Tell us a little about yourself and your channel.
Well, I'm a teacher. Right now, I'm serving as a literacy teacher, and I'm also studying to get my doctorate one of these days. And so I have just my own channel where I cover controversial news topics and things of that nature, just stuff that I'm kind of interested in within the education field. So that's just a little bit.
Okay, so it looks like I filtered by your most popular videos. You have some that are about cars that are from a couple years ago.
Well, they people always said that you should just start out making videos of like whatever you do. And I said, well, I want to start a channel and let me just get some stuff going. So I had some about cars and I did like a review of a Drano product that
Okay.
did really well during that time, but it was just kind of, yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, hi, Rebecca. Thanks for coming. How's the weather where you are? I have snow where I am, and you have rain, right? Or you did yesterday.
Yeah, it's been really, really messy outside. Both yesterday, I was drenched walking into
Oh,
work this morning.
okay.
So,
Well, let's start with the first story.
okay, let me get this pulled up.
Okay.
So now this is going to be pretty interesting. So
Okay,
Are you sure you're ready for this?
I'm ready. While you're getting it up, I'm just going to talk a little bit. So his channel is all about topics that are in the news, and I like to give my opinion. So, okay, so here it is. So tell us what's going on here.
Okay. So I found this on floridatoday.com and it opened up a whole rabbit hole of things that are going on in Florida. But the headline of this article says Brevard School Board OK's Bible based curriculum doesn't address principal teacher arrests. And this was published actually today. Now
Okay.
I want to ask you a quick question. Did you hear about the story in Florida a while back that dealt with the principal and the party that they had?
I didn't.
Okay, so let me give you a quick recap because
Okay.
to add some context to this. Now, not too long ago, there was this news story of a principal and I think someone else at this particular school facility, and they hosted a party at their house for high schoolers where there was alcohol.
Mm.
And I think that there were over 100 students there, and it was just a whole deal. And obviously, it, the word got out about this, and it just became a whole thing. And I think the principal obviously probably got fired. But this happened in this area.
Okay.
So this article talks about the subtitle says the school board approved Dave Ramsey's financial curriculum, disputing the idea that it was a Christian curriculum. So let's take a look at what's going on here. And have you heard of Dave Ramsey before?
Oh, yes, yes. I'm very familiar with his. Yeah.
All right. So it says despite outcry from the public, Brevard School Board on Tuesday approved a Bible based financial curriculum and didn't address the handling of a situation last month involving an alcohol fueled teen party at a principal's house in Cocoa Beach. So that's what I was referring to.
Okay.
It says members of the sparse audience at the evening meeting spoke on both issues as Dave Ramsey's Foundations of Personal Finance curriculum was on the agenda. And this was the first meeting held since the January arrests of Roosevelt Elementary's principal and third grade teacher in connection to a party held at the principal's home where more than 100 teens were in attendance and drinking alcohol, according to police. So, what you're going to see in this situation is that they have this meeting and they are approving Dave Ramsey's financial curriculum and just not even saying anything at all, not even bringing up this whole party, this scandal that went down. So it says here, going down, there are some quotes from Proverbs and from Luke, but there are also quotes from Maya Angelou and Benjamin Franklin and probably various and sundry people. We're never ever, and shame on us if we ever do, get rid of every reference to the Bible. So they're talking about this financial curriculum. Because if you're not familiar with Dave Ramsey, he is an evangelical Christian.
Hmm.
And, you know, so his faith, speaks through the things that he writes. So parents are up in arms about this because the school board voted unanimously to incorporate this financial curriculum that Dave Ramsey has, even though there were some other curricula that were presented as alternatives that did not include any kind of, you know, any type of Christian language or anything like that. So before we go on, I do want to ask, what is your relationship with Dave Ramsey? What do you know about him? What is your experience?
So, yeah, I'm familiar with his financial advice, his radio show. Actually, when my husband and I got married, we were in like a group Bible study, and we learned about Dave Ramsey and his financial advice. I have to say, I'm going to say that even though Dave Ramsey is a Christian and he holds no bone, he tells everybody he is a Christian and he holds no bones about it, I don't think that his financial advice is actually religious. I mean, yes, he indirectly uses his Christianity in his financial advice, but I think like you could take the Christianity part out of it and still use the financial advice is my personal opinion. But people associate him with that because he's very clear about his Christian beliefs. So they're going to think that his financial advice, just because of that, is purely Christian. I actually don't agree with everything Dave Ramsey says and some of his financial advice for other reasons, but I personally don't think it's all based on Christianity. Actually, none of it, it is like secular advice people could use, basically. Let's see what someone in our audience is saying. Dave Ramsey Financial Peace Program eliminated most of my debt. I don't remember the course being overly Christian, though. Yes, I believe he gives really good advice about getting out of debt. Right, and even though it is done through churches and Christian, I don't think it's super religion Christian in the advice either. Yeah, I won't go into what I disagree with because I just feel like he hasn't kept up with the times. Like, he hasn't changed his advice in like 20 or 30 years, and the times and life and everything has changed. But that's a whole nother issue. That has nothing to do with this. Yeah.
So you're saying, if I'm hearing you correctly, he gives instruction on how to handle finances and things of that nature, but it doesn't necessarily come off as being Christian, even though that's his personal life.
Yes, exactly. The advice can be used by anybody, no matter that could be used by atheists. I agree with Kelly, his stuff can be secular. Yeah. It's basic financial advice, and then he just happens to be a Christian.
So let's take a look at this one excerpt because this is something I found. Now, this is in another article that was in Florida from a different county, I believe, because one of the reasons Brevard School Board is adopting this curriculum is because several other areas within the several other school boards have also adopted it, and they're just kind of following suit. But here in this excerpt, it says, when someone borrows money from another, we understand they have an obligation to repay. A study in the dictionary will show you what this really means. A definition of obligation is bound, which is defined as tied in bonds, a bound prisoner. And then down here is a verse that says, the rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is slave to the lender. Proverbs 22:7 NIV. Don't become a prisoner or slave to debt.
Is that from Dave Ramsey's advice, you're saying?
So this here says, yes, this is an excerpt from the textbook.
Oh,
So
okay. Well, I think you could take like that kind of stuff out and then the advice could still stand as financial advice. But yes, if it's quoting scriptures and it's a public school, I agree that would go against the separation of church and state kind of thing. But like I said, his advice could stand without the scriptures.
okay, so that gets into the question, the heart of this. And here's just a direct question. So the argument here is that this is a Christian textbook and that it shouldn't be used in a public school. So my question is, does including Bible verses as evidence to support what you are saying in a textbook, does that truly qualify it as a Christian textbook or a Christian curriculum?
I mean, maybe. What do you guys think in the audience? I can see how I can see why people would protest against that. I would say if you just took out the scriptures, that his advice could stand in a public school. You know, yeah.
Anything from the audience?
Let's see. What are you guys saying? Uh, Hello. Hi, Casey. Hello, late, but I am here. He could rewrite the text, one version for churches and another one for public schools without the references. Yes, I totally agree with that. I think if he did that, then it probably would be okay for the school. Yeah.
Definitely. And I know that even like the classes that I'm taking right now, we don't read the whole textbook. We take different pieces. It's kind of up to the teacher to pick and choose what they feel is best. And that one excerpt that I pointed out, that looks kind of like a quote that's like outside of the main text. Sometimes you can just skip over those kinds of things, like you were saying. I mean, or it could be. I grew up going to a Christian school, so I'm a little bit. I guess you could say that I'm biased in some respects, but it's like it reminds me of whenever in elementary school we would get the book fair ads, and we would have Harry Potter crossed off.
Oh, right.
Crossed off. Like we couldn't. So you could, like get a Sharpie and maybe like blank that part out or something. But
right. That's Harry Potter's one of those that even like Christians disagree on that one. Two people who are Christians will have an argument whether or not you should be reading that. That's one of the
But it does say here though that the curriculum was state approved. It says that even though the curriculum was state approved, the board should pick another one in order to set a true standard for excellence rather than following one to mediocrity. And some of the complaints that were lodged against this, they were saying that Dave Ramsey, he includes a lot of practical advice, but maybe not enough like mathematical, maybe not enough math.
Well, I mean, yeah, his advice is just spend as little as possible. Here we got something from hi, Kathy. The Bible is a great work of literature, and just as other works of literature are sometimes lightly quoted in textbooks, it doesn't seem like one verse is a huge issue. I agree, but I mean, just to appease the people on the other side, say like, okay, we'll have one version without any scriptures, then there could be no argument at all, but
I'm of the opinion, because I forget where this was. I think it might have been in Oklahoma, but I did a video on this that's on my channel where I talked about how I think it was someone in the state, they were having a Bible-based curriculum. They were going to introduce this, and they were going to put Bibles in school. I think that might be a little too much, but
too far. Mm-hmm.
I'm of the opinion that I think that there is nothing wrong. Like I forget who that was that said that, the audience member, but including a Bible as it's a historical document,
right?
At the very least,
that was Kathy. Yes, you're right. Yep, and I mean, there are other religions taught in school, just like this is what other people believe, or, you know, so.
Right. There was one other thing that I wanted to look at. So
Right.
if we look here, there are some other financial literacy curricula, because I was like, well, is Dave Ramsey the only one out there? And of course, there are some here on Amazon, but I wanted to look at uh, Dave Ramsey specifically. So you can see his book. Yeah, his book, Foundations in Personal Finance, it actually has good reviews. So because I was like, well, is this is this just textbook? Is it like really bad? I mean, does it have any? Obviously, it has some credibility. So,
Right.
um, but
Yeah, so well, I guess we'll get off topic, but kind of what I think his advice is geared towards someone who's just like really bad at using credit cards. Like, you're so terrible at using credit cards that you need to cut up your credit cards because you're undisciplined. And if you have a credit card, you're going to just spend. And some people are like that, and they absolutely should do that. But like, if you are disciplined and you're paying off your credit card every month and you're not overspending, then a lot of credit cards give, monthly incentives and cash back and trips. So I mean, those are kind of the little things where I disagree with Dave Ramsey. But yeah.
now on this curricula, I actually think that the curriculum is a good idea, and I'm going to explain why. And it's probably not going to be why you think.
Okay.
But so I actually, a couple of months ago, I started following Dave Ramsey on YouTube. Interestingly,
Okay. Mm-hmm.
I was never a Dave Ramsey person, even though I knew, even though I wasn't a Dave Ramsey person, I knew what he said because everybody else around me talked about Dave Ramsey.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And so I knew some of the basic things, but then I decided I was going to look into 401k and stuff like that. And I found his videos on YouTube, and I was like, well, let me follow. And I think that using his curriculum is actually a forward-thinking strategy in education, because I think that he has so much content out there that students can consume on social media where a lot of students live. He's got stuff out there on YouTube. I'm sure that he has shorts. And even if students aren't interested in reading the textbook, they think financial literacy, what is this?
Mm-hmm.
I think that that's an entry point for a new generation of learners that are looking for video content and just things that they can engage with online. And that's what I like about that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yes, because he was on the radio, and now he's on YouTube, and he has people that work for him that also do some of the videos. He is definitely focused on getting out of debt fast. Yes. And I think if you're very in debt, then yes, his advice is great. So, let's see what else people are saying. Great for snowball out of our debt. Right. Okay, so do you want me to stop share, or you still have more to say about this?
You can if you want. I wanted to ask, if you had any experience with, this type of situation within your area or throughout your career, just the battle between religion and school and how that has played out.
Yeah, I haven't had anything like this where, but little things like, you're teaching about all the different religions. Oh, this is what Jewish believes and Muslims believe. And that, like, why can't you just say what Christians believe as one of many? This is what each one believes, and Christmas is taught as a secular holiday, which for a lot of people, it actually is a very religious holiday. And why can't we say that if we're saying that Hanukkah is a religious holiday for the Jewish people. I mean, I guess I feel like there's some discrepancy there that there's so much you're not allowed to say anything, and it's a little unfair. Um,
As a final point, I'm not sure if you were aware of this, but I live in Louisiana where there was that bill that was introduced that you needed to put the Ten Commandments on the wall of every classroom.
okay.
I don't know if you, I don't know if you heard about that, but
I like heard it was happening somewhere, but I couldn't remember where it was. Okay, so
yeah.
yeah.
So that's it. But I haven't seen it, actually enforced or anything like
Okay.
that. So
So if someone
um,
didn't do it, they're not going to come in and say you have to.
I don't. I mean, I don't know. But those are the kinds of things. You live kind of in the north.
Yeah.
I'm all the way down here in the south, so it's a little bit different.
Yeah.
I think that this kind of thing is more. I'm not surprised. So
Right, right. Let's see what our audience is saying. Rebecca says we actually got credit cards after his classes since we had zero credit card and needed to build some. We paid it off every month. Yes, which is the reason when both my kids turned 16, I had them get a credit card so they could start building the credit. But I monitor it so that, but basically it's like anything that I'm paying for. Like if I tell them to go to the school or they need books for their college classes, anything that I'm going to pay for anyway, they put on that credit card, and then anything they're paying for, they have a bank card. So I figured that way they could start establishing credit. Um, I did the same thing, Rebecca. Okay, good. And okay, I'm going to stop that one, and you have another one for us, right?
I do. Right.
Okay.
So this is more up your alley. I think
Oh,
that
okay.
because and I really am not the I don't know too much on this, so you're gonna have to give me some details. And this is
Okay.
something that um, I have also talked a little bit about on my channel. So this is on
Yeah.
CBS6Albany.com. And the headline reads Queensbury parents voice concerns over special needs resources. This is from February 11th. Are you familiar with this kind of situation? Do you know
Um,
where this is going?
I think I want to hear more about the story. And where is Queensbury?
Queensbury. Let's see here. New York.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. So it's pretty simple. All right. The Queensbury Union Free School District is holding a school board meeting Monday night, and several parents are expected to express concerns about the adequacy of resources for students with special needs. Cassie Shield, a concerned mother whose daughter will start school in the district next year, said she's worried about whether her child will receive the necessary services. After posting on Facebook, dozens of parents responded saying, District has been unable to provide students with individualized education programs. She added that one parent uh, told her their son was not receiving any of the services he needed, and the school district never informed the parents. Now, can you guess as to why this is?
They didn't have enough special education teachers.
Exactly
Yeah.
correct.
So,
Not enough special education teachers. And it says here that parents are pursuing legal action. A handful of them are actually in the middle of class action lawsuits for neglecting their child's IEPs. It goes against the Civil Act of Disabilities for Children. Um, Now, the district has issued a statement on this. And to summarize what they said, we're trying to recruit teachers. It says we've hired several part-time and full-time speech therapists. As soon as we have an applicant, we interview that candidate, and we'll continue to do so because some of their students did need a speech therapist. Um, but they're like, look, we're doing everything we can. We're trying on this. So my question to you is, first of all, what's your overall take on this situation?
well, okay. So let me start off first by saying before I was a special education teacher, I was a special education parent. So I get where they're coming from, and you should be advocating for your kid. If your kid is not getting the services, they need you because they will just keep taking advantage and not doing it. As far as hiring, if someone out there who's watching lives in New York, tell us. But I hear they have one of the strictest teaching requirements to become teachers. So if you're already having trouble with special education teachers, maybe you need to start offering like provisional licenses, like that's what they have in my state, or, offer to pay for schooling, have some alternative ways. You also, one thing my county does, if they can't provide the services, they will pay for your child to get it done at a private place, but the county is paying the bill. So that's another thing. So there are other things they could do to try to get these kids the services, because an IEP is a legal document. So what it says in that IEP, you have to provide for the child, and the child is missing out on the help and the services they need in public school, and everyone has access to a free and public education, and that is the law. So yeah, let's see. Oh, that's right. Kathy's in New York. I live in New York, and you're right. Super strict standards for becoming a teacher. Right. And I believe they shouldn't be too lax, like it's some states, but New York definitely takes it to an extreme. I think all their teachers have to have master's degrees. I think within 5 years of, and transferring from another state is really difficult as well. Casey says, I was fortunate to work in a school that had amazing resources for special education. This makes me so sad. Yes, and you worked for Dodds and Dodea, which is the military, that's good to hear that the military treats special education well. In the end, DEA is going to reduce special education. Are you talking about the Department of Education, the DOE? Is that what you're talking about? On the other hand, New York overall provides a lot of disability services compared to other states. Yes, and I know she shared on my channel, I actually interviewed her. Her granddaughter is in special education, partly in the public school and partly homeschooled. So, okay, yeah, those are my thoughts.
So I learned a lot there just from hearing you as well as the audience, and I really appreciate. I want to say thank you to the audience for chiming in on that and talking about the strict standards, because that's a stark contrast to something else that I've been reading a lot about, and you might be familiar, like with in Texas, for example, they were saying that more than 50% of new hires are uncertified teachers.
Wait, where? Oh, Texas, you said?
In Texas.
Right. And you talked about on your channel, like some of them don't even have bachelor's degrees.
Right.
Okay.
So that wouldn't happen. I'm gathering that wouldn't happen in New York right now,
Right,
at least.
right.
But do you think that that's the direction that some other states like New York need to go in, or?
Yeah. I think there's a middle ground between Texas and New York. I think we need something in the middle. I mean, I like my state, I think, is in the middle of that. You have to have a bachelor's degree to get a provisional license. Although, unless you're talking about long-term subs, because depending on the county you're in my state, so the county where I live, you just need a high school degree to be a long-term sub, and somebody could be a long-term sub in one of those kinds of places. Now, in my county where I work, which is not the county where I live, you need at least some college, I think a certain amount of college credits to be a sub for even an assistant teacher. So, yeah, there's a middle ground. Definitely. Wait, let's see what Kathy said. On the other hand, New York overall provides a lot of disability services compared to other states. That's good to hear. Mm-hmm. So maybe that's part of the problem. They're promising a lot, and that's not a bad thing. That's a wonderful thing. But then they can't deliver on it when they're short on teachers, though.
Yeah. And just some more clarity, I had skipped over this originally. It says They have one therapist for the grades K through 5, and you're talking 60 something kids per grade.
Hmm.
And that's maybe even lowballing that receives some sort of service. That kind of reminds me of where I am now. I think the we have one counselor for like a billion students. I mean, like
Wow.
about um, at least 500, or
Wow.
something like that. So
Hmm.
it's like, how do you handle all of that? That's like a large caseload. Um,
Hmm.
but my question here is my next question is related to these class action lawsuits, because if the school district is trying to do everything that they can and they just cannot fill the needs, and they're getting hit with these lawsuits, what is there to be done? How does this? I'm not even sure what to say on it, because it's like,
Right.
is the school still held liable in this situation? Um, you know, it,
Yeah. Well, they are because an IEP is a legal document. But I mean, they're in a tough spot. They're between a rock and a hard place if they legit don't have the people to do the job. What do you do? So,
exactly. It seems like a very tough, almost impossible, if I would say, situation as it currently stands, to meet the needs that they're required to, that legally they're supposed to,
mm-hmm.
but then filling the teacher shortage, it just
Right. And let's see, our audience has chimed in on some other things. Let's see, what did they? And I think New York pays better, but living costs are probably higher, right, Kathy? Well, okay, so let me tell you what I do know about that. Costs of living in New York City are higher, yes. I actually know where Kathy lives because she lives near some of my family members. And I know that the town she lives in, because remember, everyone thinks of New York City, but New York is a huge state. She lives in a very, very, very small, middle of nowhere town where actually the cost of living is a lot lower. I know it is because when I compare prices with my family members, I'm like, yeah, I would pay. They might say something like, yeah, I'd pay someone $30 to plow my driveway, and I'd be like, someone wouldn't even show up with like unless you paid them 60, and then on top of that hourly where I live. So in certain parts of the state, the cost of living's lower, but yes, in New York City, it would be higher. Um, so let's see. And I am sitting down to dinner. I will watch the rest later. Great stuff. Okay, good. Actually, I wanted to address what you said about special education, but I will in a second. They should have signed the IEP stating they could provide those resources. Here's the thing, I just went to a training recently, and we were told you're not allowed to say, oh, we don't have the staffing for that, when you're trying to figure out services for the child. Like, that's not even supposed to be part of the conversation, but I guess how are you supposed to navigate that if you don't have the resources? You don't have them. I think maybe New York needs to do something where they lower their standards a little and do things to incentivize getting new teachers and alternative pathways and things like that.
and Casey, I'm sorry, and Casey, part of in this article, it also said that parents were saying they found out, or the school was unable to provide IEP, so they might not have even had them at all to begin with, is what it sounds like.
And
Uh,
that's wrong. They weren't doing it and they were not telling the parents. They were just hoping they could just get away with it and the parents would never know. I don't blame the parents for being mad. I would be mad too. Like I said, I was a special education parent first. Yes. So, yeah. Let's see. Hi, Cindy. Oh, I'm sure they don't want you stating that. Right. you, that is odd. Probably about stating. Yes. So, yeah, I don't know. That's hard.
it's again, with all things education, we're talking about the next generation of um, scholars, learners, children that are coming up. And it's unfortunate that this is the situation because we're talking about kids and the opportunities that they have to learn at school and in the individual needs that they have. And I feel for the parents, I feel for the students, I feel for everybody involved because I think that in the end it's like everyone is coming out of this a loser is
Mm,
what it feels like.
yes.
And it's like a no-win situation for anybody. And it does have a lot to do with the current state of education. Because these problems aren't exclusive to New York, they're
Right.
all over the country. I go through the headlines daily, and it just seems like school districts and states are just trying to do anything they can to bring teachers in,
Hmm.
to set things up. But it's, you try one thing, it's like you try one thing to offset something, but then that causes something else. There are always some unintended effects.
Right.
um and there are all kinds of stories of just scandals and things that go on in schools. And it's like, you lower the bar for teachers, and then you open the floodgates for all kinds of other things to happen. It's a really unfortunate situation. And there was someone who commented on my channel, and I'm not trying to get into this, but there was someone who commented on a video I made and said that school reform will never work, and the only option is school choice. Now, look, I don't know much about that topic, so I'm not going to get into that. But it is something that I'm trying to research a little bit more, to be more educated on it, because it's like, what does the education system need right now? Is there a reform? What's next?
Right. Here's what I think. So I think competition has always been good. I mean, that's why monopolies are illegal because, you know, and I feel like the public school system has a monopoly. And places like Texas, I don't know what is going on in Texas. If any of my viewers, if you are a teacher in Texas, a former teacher, even better, because you'll talk more, I'd like you on my channel. Because okay, so we know it's a mess there. So it's going to take them a few years to reform it. Well, in those few years, the children that are going through that education system, they're suffering. So I would like to see children like that like have another choice. Or rich parents can go, oh, I do not like the neighborhood I live in. I don't like the schools where I live. I'm going to send my kid to private school. Well, what about the poor kids? They can't just afford to go to private school, and they're stuck wherever their zip code is. And if they have a bad school system, they're just out of luck. So even if you did some kind of compromise, let's say a school system does $20,000 per kid is what each the tax dollars. Even if you took half, if you said like $10,000 you can take and go to a private school, and you still kept the other 10,000 for yourselves to stay in the public school. I mean, I would think something like that would be a good compromise. Um, so that's my opinion about that. Yeah, I think I think it is good because everybody just keeps saying just throw more money at the public schools. Well, we keep doing that and they're not improving. So, yeah. Um, let's see what everybody is saying. Katie says, "I'm in Texas." Oh, Katie, would you like to come on my channel? I want to interview a Texas teacher, or maybe are you a teacher? Even maybe you're a Texas parent, but you know what's going on. And we are underfunded that we have one SPED teacher for all of 5th through 8th grade. We keep adding kids to SPED and they can't add more staff. Yes, definitely a problem everywhere. New Hampshire has an education freedom account. It's about $4K per kid if not going to public school. I think my state, if you look it up, says it's for free choice, but it's only because you can do like a tax-free savings account, but it's not like you get money to like go towards another school or anything. We are trying to pass this within the next few weeks. Okay.
Choice
I think that's what she means. Or I think
or a
this
voucher program?
education freedom account. So is that where explain more what that's about? Is that where they give each child, um, yeah. So, yeah, what do you think of school choice?
Me?
Yes. Or you're still researching, you said.
Yeah, I'm still researching. But I will comment on that real quick. Um, so I'm taking a class right now that is on uh, culture and the battle between culture and education, conflict throughout history. And I just read today an article, I believe it was called The Sociology of School Choice. And it was getting into the um, the way that those who are provided the option for school choice handle their decision making. And I forget what it's called exactly, but basically, the this article was talking about how even when a specific, like let's say those who are living in poverty, they get the option to choose. They don't know. They're not. They don't have enough information about schools to make an educated decision. So you think that parents and students having a school choice, they would pick the best schools, but they don't always know what the best schools are. And the way that what they see as the best school, they might look at, well, this school has a great athletic program. So that's the choice that we want. We see that they are good in sports, so we're going to send our child there. But it also had evidence to show that some of the families that the schools that they choose actually are still within their I would say neighborhood or their community, because they don't feel comfortable going to just a school that is completely different from where they live and what they're used to. There's an entirely different set of norms that they have to follow, like a way of different expectations. But you can stay within your community and go to the better school in your community, is kind of what this article was getting into, and it's from a book. I forget, but so there are a lot of interesting factors when it comes to school choice, because I think when you look at school choice at the surface level, it just sounds like this. For some, it sounds like this brilliant idea, but it's a lot more complex than people realize. And even if you
Yeah.
give people the choice, do they make the right choice?
Right. So, what it sounds like that article is saying, though, is that in so many words, they're saying people are not smart enough to make the right choice for their own kids.
I wouldn't say that they're not smart in. I
That's
wouldn't
what
put
it
it.
seems like it's implying. It says they won't make the right decision. Well, why is somebody else telling that parent what is the right decision for their kids?
So okay.
Yeah.
Here's one of the points in it that I kind of glossed over. It's not that they don't have enough. So they don't have enough information, but part of that is because schools don't always make that information available. That's more along the lines of what it was saying. And not that they're not smart enough, but um sometimes for example, like the families, they would allow their child to choose. I mean, sometimes it comes down to that, like, which school do you want to go to? Because not all parents are heavily involved in their child's education, and they kind of allow their children to do those things. And their child might say, well, I want to go where my friends are going. They're all going to this school, and it might not necessarily be the best school. But there are more. It's more complex. There are a lot of different ways that people make those decisions. That it doesn't always turn out to be like we think things will go down. It just the outcome isn't like we expect it to be.
Right. But I know people who, paying for it themselves, they give their kids the option. Like, do you want me to homeschool or do you want to go to private school? Like, so I know people that do that now. Um, let's see what people are saying. The money has to go to anything education, but the idea is to encourage school choice. Parents should be able to choose for their kids, which they can, but like Kelly said, it's expensive. And Texas is a mess. Yeah, we've heard. Holden's done a few videos about Texas on his channel. Public schools are allotted $6,500 per student, and the vouchers that are being debated would allot for $10,000 for private schools. Very unbalanced. Okay, well, yeah, well, that's something that, though, you could advocate. You got to work out the kinks, and you could advocate for, with your school board and at the state level. However, there's a transfer process where you can get your kid into any public district that given the district's approval. Okay. Maybe they are uninformed. Well, yeah, but you're going to tell parents, like, I don't know, shouldn't be choosing. Um,
And
yeah.
I'm going to pull up this text real quick, just so I can show you. And in case anyone is interested,
Oh,
they can
okay.
also look it up for themselves. It's called The Sociology of School Choice by Amy Wells, and I believe it is back from like 1993. But it goes into all of this, and there was a study done, but it's really interesting. And so I went through it today, and in the future I have to kind of do a write up on a lot of the content within, but it's very interesting. Here's something that says the idea that white schools are generally better than black schools is rarely based on information about educational resources or curricular offerings. I mean, I don't know. I'm reading it out of context. So, but very interesting. Very interesting.
And Casey said, I didn't say that to tell parents that you stated they weren't smart. I was just asking Holden if the article meant uninformed. Right. But then that's kind of indirectly saying that they don't know how to do their own research. And
So
yeah.
I'm glad she brought that up. So let me zoom in on this, and so I can give you exactly what it says.
Okay.
All right. So here's what this says on this left side. It says, I argue that the economic metaphor fails to account for two major issues affecting parents and students' school choices. The first is the lack of accurate information available to parents and students about school quality in any objective sense of the school they are choosing. The normative aspect of decision making that can lead parents and students to make school choices based on various non academic factors completely related to school quality. So, in a sense, I mean, yeah, there is some of that because I think that we're talking here about some economically disadvantaged families. And, I wrote this in my notes that, um, how can you advocate for democratic equality when, let's say your families have not, um, because let's be completely honest. I work for a school where a lot of the parents are not educated. A lot of the families are not educated, and that's no secret or anything. But so that is a factor that plays in, but I think that it's more complex than that. Uh, so
Right. I guess I would argue that even if they're not educated, I think most parents are going to know what's best for their own kids. And, there's research, there's great schools, which I hope have the private schools as well. And, there's information out there that they could find talking to people, asking around. is this a good school? What do you think? Yeah.
It is true. And let me just read this last little piece here. It does say, so low income families tend to have less information and less market power, so time, money, influence, and access, than wealthier parents involved in school choice plans. It also says parents of all backgrounds frequently cite non-academic factors such as location, the ethnic or social class composition of the school, the desire to keep siblings or friends together, and the moral values espoused by both staff and students as having influenced their decisions. And families with lower expectations for the student's future occupational attainment were less likely to participate in school choice plans or choose high status schools. Now, I have a question for you. Is that okay? I don't know how much time we have left here.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
I had a snow day today. I was off all day.
Okay. So what do you think? Do you believe in the idea that education can empower students with the ability to transcend social class?
Yes, I do, which is why I think all parents should have the choice. And all of the things that you just read, I know middle class parents that make those types of decisions on where to send their kids to schools. So, and I do feel like with the days of the internet, even most poor people have access to the internet, and that you can find out these kinds of things. Katie says, Holden, what year is this text from?
This is from 1993.
Okay. So, yes, just my opinion. I think that in this day and age, we all have access to information.
Okay. So does that mean, are you saying then that access to information means we know how to use that information?
Yes, but I feel like it's implying that because you're economically disadvantaged, then that you are less likely to make the right decision for your kid.
Okay.
So I believe no matter what someone's economic status is, that they still know what's best for their own kids ultimately.
Yeah, and you have been you have more years of experience than I do within the education system. So, this is something that, especially the issue of school choice, it's relatively new to me, and it's just something too that I'm not even really sure of. Because I think that you are right that we have education, and if we wanted certain things for children, we could go out and get it. I also see the side of it that it's like, I think that some people don't understand the power of information and what it can do. Even though we have access to it, it's like, I have a lot of tools at my disposal. It reminds me of the first time that I walked into a classroom and I started teaching, and I didn't know what I was doing. All right.
Nobody does. On their first day, nobody does.
Especially when it comes to classroom management. And I had all these things at my disposal, like, especially because teachers from past years had left. There were remnants from those years. And I had like a lot of things that I could use. It was there. But it finally took someone else. Another teacher coming in and showing me, hey, this is how you can use this. You got this, do this with this, and then it finally kind of all clicked. And I think that with the school that I'm working at, one thing I'm looking forward to next month is I'm going to be working with another teacher to give a seminar on to parents on how to prepare their students or their children for standardized testing,
Hmm.
and to try to empower them with that knowledge, because you can send them things home all day long, but they don't necessarily know how to use it or how to do it. And I don't know, those are just my thoughts on it. But yeah, like I said, school choice, I wasn't expecting to go here. It just kind of came up.
I know.
So
We kind of went this way. So Kathy says, education helped me to transcend social class. I'm a first generation college graduate, and my parents were uneducated, both high school dropouts, who pushed for my siblings and I to get educated. That's awesome, Kathy. And that's what I like about living in this country, is that you are not stuck where you were born as your social class. So,
wow.
yes, yes. All right. Well, thanks for coming on. I'm going to show your channel one more time.
Okay.
And Casey says, same here, Kathy. Okay. I did not know that about you, Casey. And, where am I? Oh, I'm on your posts. And here's some of his videos, some of his more recent videos. So he's talked about Texas.
Yes. I just posted a video. I like to do videos during my lunch break, and I have a lot
Okay.
of them scheduled. But today I did one, and I posted it on Jot Pair Share. You ever done
Oh.
Jot Pair Share?
No, I've heard of
Oh,
what the other one? Think,
Think Pair
pair,
Share.
share. Yes.
Yeah. This is the spinoff. This is the sequel.
Okay, I'll have to watch. I haven't watched your
Yeah.
video yet. Yes. So check out his channel. Classroom Camp is the name of it. And I have it in the description. I have a link to it. All right. Well, thanks for coming on my channel and sharing these stories.
Thank you so much for having me on. This was so much fun. I love discussing education, and
Me
it
too.
was amazing to hear your perspective. And I've been watching your stuff
Oh,
for a
thank you.
while now, and I was like, wow, so we finally got to meet online
Yes.
and discuss this, and I thought it was great. So
Yes. Well, thank you. I'm so glad. All right. And thanks to all of you that came and contributed to the chat. And we will see you guys next time. Bye.